welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your hosts, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, we're excited this week.
Oh yeah, it's the start of a new year for us by closing out last year with a champion.
That's right. We need to talk about this. If viewers in the chat are already talking a lot about it, they haven't talked yet, but we already know why this is exciting. Every year around this time, around our anniversary, I should say, we do the Champion of Champions episode where we look at all of the champions from our top 8 debate over the previous year, and we pick the top highest 8 ranked, and we debate them to become a Champion of Champions. Why did we start doing this, Daniel?
Well, it's just, to help us clean up the top 8 debates. This way we're not debating the same games over and over again. So the key thing about our Champions of Champions editions, which what we're doing right now, is the game that wins this championship is ascended and can no longer be debated in the top 8 debate.
That's right. Unless we do this for 8 years total, then maybe there'll be one more. We'll see when that comes around. But realistically, though, like this has been a long time coming. This is our 4th Champions edition. I can't believe we've been doing this show for so long. But this is exciting. What was the first year's winner?
Gloomhaven.
Speaking of Gloomhaven, we just got this cool little mini Gloomhaven. I'm pretty excited to check that out.
Yeah, so the first year was Gloomhaven. The second year was Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Well, speaking of Pandemic Legacy... Oh, I don't have a mini version.
And then year 3, Return to Dark Tower. In its first year, already ascended. So who's going to join those 3 to become the 4th game ascended?
That's right. So we're going to pull up the rank board. And we're trying something new, so we apologize to the headphone listeners, but we're going to show you this real quick. We created the bracket board right here, our top 8 debate board, where we have all 8 of our contestants here. We're going to be moving them along. This board may change. We'll see how we like this. But we thought we'd change it up a little bit for such a special episode.
My question is, this is a nice little setup. If we do like this, maybe getting a yellow whiteboard or dry erase board, and then because if you just glue magnets to the back of this, just
it'd be real simple. Yeah, we have so many ways that we're talking about this, ways to figure it out. We'll let you guys know when we come up with this. This will be making a return here in a little bit when we talk about what is being contested today. So with that being said, again, today's our top 8 debate. But not only is this our top 8 debate for champions, we have something also especially exciting for me to bring up.
Do we? I don't know.
I feel like there's been a game hiding behind us this whole time. That's right. We have a copy of Matches, this card game from Thing 12. This is important to me because I am the designer of this game. It is finally hitting stores now. The backers are getting fulfilled. Here is your chance to win a free copy. We're going to be running a contest for the next 4 weeks over this month's worth of episodes.
Yep.
Starting with today, we're going to give you a passphrase later on in the episode. And when you hear that passphrase, you can email us and enter in the contest. Also, if you're subscribers or followers or whatever on our various platforms, you can automatically be part of a chance to win this. We'll talk about more details later on.
Yeah, right when we get into the episode, when we give the passphrase, we're going to talk about how you can enter to win. Basically, if you subscribe to us on YouTube, a follower to us here on Twitch, those are good chances for you.
That's right. So, that being said, this episode, do you have any clear goals, any games that you're rooting for or anything? You don't have to give spoilers or anything, but do you have any specific titles that you think is pretty much shoo-in?
There's 2 that are right on my favorites list that I can see being ascended.
Yeah.
But the way we do this thing... Oh, also, we forgot to mention there's going to be something else following up on our YouTube channel this week.
Right. So, check out our YouTube channel, because we just started this week doing reviews. And we're doing it in a pretty interesting way that ties into our top 8 debates. Viewers of the channel already know that our top 8 debates use 5 criteria. We're going to break those down in a bit for you. But we're using that same 5 criteria to rank these review games and tell the viewers what we think about it in the least biased way possible. Mm-hmm. I mean, every review will have some bias, but we try to take that out of it.
As much as we can.
As much as we can. Same like with our debates. So, shall we get into today's episode?
Let's shall.
All right. Today's episode, Top 8 Debate Champions Edition, 4th year. we had a total of 10 games that we have been or that won the championship
Yeah.
over the past week. But before we get into those, Daniel, what have you been playing lately?
So, I've been playing a lot lately, so I had to go through all my thing here, go all the way back from, like, our Gamma trip and stuff like that. So, there's some games in here. We only talk about 2, so I want to get some of the games that we played back in, late February, early March, a little bit of love because, we were in Gamma.
Sure.
So, the first thing I want to talk about is an interesting game. This is a game that you've been trying to get me to play. It's probably one of your favorite games of 2023.
Yep.
And I played this very meta. Me and our buddy, Dammit Dom, were flying into Dallas to meet you.
Yep.
And so the game we ended up playing was Sky Team on the airplane.
Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not totally comfortable on a plane. I used to be a lot better about it. But, like, the past few times I've been on a plane, I've been fairly nervous and stuff. And I know you're not the biggest fan of flying either. What in the holy world are you playing a game about trying to land a plane? Not an easy game, by the way.
No.
Why would you do that to yourself?
I needed the distraction. This way I'm not concentrating on the actual plane I'm in.
You're playing a game about questionably landing a plane.
Oh, I'm not a pilot, so if we suck, we suck. You just hope the guys that are in the front of the plane don't suck.
Is this their training mission? Is that what it is?
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, we lost miserably. We ended up flipping the plane because you have to balance the plane. And so I had to throw a 6 out there when there was already a 3 out there, and our plane flipped. So, yeah, it was, and as I put here on my note, we were bad pilots. Thank God the pilots that were taking us to Dallas were great and did a great job. I barely felt the landing.
Yeah.
That's how good they did.
It wasn't sideways, huh? They didn't land on the wing?
No, but
cartwheel?
When they were turning into the land, you feel the plane going this way. I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh God, this is what we did.
Sky Team all over again. No!
But yeah, no, it was actually it was really fun. I do enjoy it. I want to play it some more. And again, the big thing about it is, it's just that it doesn't get, 2-player games don't get played at home.
Sure.
So that's why I ended up going with a solo version of Gloomhaven. This way I played a little bit more.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it was fun. I enjoy it. Very well produced game. Very smart, thinky game where you're beholden to dice chucking, but
sure,
you have to be smart how you play those dice. So I did like it a lot.
Yeah. The game I wanted to talk about that I've been playing recently, you have not played it yet, but I know you and our mutual friends have been wanting to play it. I recently got a copy not too long ago from the wonderful people at the Op. They're getting into some amazing games lately. And I got a game that came out last year called The Art Project.
Yes.
And I played this just the other night with my gaming group. And this is a cooperative game where it has 6 different maps, and it's not necessarily a campaign, but each map adds a little bit more rules or a little bit more variability. So we played the standard Japan map on standard difficulty, and the idea is that there is this evil corporation of basically art thieves. So we decided that's not okay. So we're stealing art from them to get it back, because that's not okay. Stealing art is wrong, so we're doing that to make up for their wrong. Anyway, it's a little loose. They're trying to make it seem like the Robin Hood style. It's like steal from the rich, the people who didn't need to get these in the first place. But what's cool about it is that you have 3 different resources. You have walkie-talkies, you have gas, and you have something else that is escaping. Guns. Yeah, those are your resources. And you have to populate. Huh? Oh. You have to, let's say bullets. How about that?
Yeah, that works better.
Yeah, and weird handle-shaped things.
How long have we been recording? Okay, we're fine.
Okay, yeah, we're good. And so those are the 3 resources that you can use throughout it. And then throughout the game, there's these little meeples that are shaped like a white glove that get populated onto the board. You kind of don't want there to be more than any amount on there, or like really more than 5, because that's when basically the town gets overrun. Kind of like pandemic style, but not quite. But what's cool is that it plays almost similar to Paleo in a way.
Okay.
You draw 2 mission cards. You actually choose one of the 2 mission cards. You discuss a little bit about what you're planning on doing. Like, you might say, it's like, well, I think we'll be good with gas after my turn, so it should be good. But unfortunately, then we'll probably have to deal with a situation on the board. because of that eludes. It's like, well, one of these ones that have a lot of tokens are probably gonna get more tokens, and we'll have to deal with it sooner than later.
Yeah.
And the way you deal with those is you actually go in and fight them. Well, each of these 3 resources, they're needed, but they have different abilities for each one. The gas is what you expend to move. Any pawn who wants to move has to spend gas to get there, even though you're all collectively in one van. Don't ask me how that works. But I guess you weigh it down. I don't know. And then you have to use the walkie-talkies. You can get assistance, which will be more dice to roll to fight against people. And then finally, the guns modify your dice rolls so you can actually add more cumulative total. But one of the cool things about this is that the golden rule that they really heavily imply in the rules and all that stuff is that at any time, if you're out of a resource, you can instead spend a heart, one of your health points, to pay for basically that resource.
Huh.
So if I have no gas cans and I really need to move, I can lose a health, fall on the grenade, if you will, and move if I need to. And so that works. You can't do it vice versa, but you can do it for this. So that's cool. But then these cards that you play have the different locations on the back. They have the 6 different types of art pieces, and you play them face down. As soon as a 3 of a kind pop up amongst multiple cards, you discard cards, and you populate that spot on the board with a crate, which is one of the art pieces that you need to recover.
Okay.
And you need to continue doing this. However, if you trigger a 3 of a kind and it already has a crate, sorry, they still get discarded. Oh well, you didn't plan correctly, right? Because you can only have 1 cube. It's super cool how it works. It works incredibly well. It's smooth. It's fairly thematic, and we were down to literally the last roll. If we had to win that one round, and we had 1 dice roll to go. That's all we had the resources for. We were down to the wire. If this roll didn't work, we would have lost, and we barely got it.
Okay.
That's exciting when that happens. This was a really fun experience. I'm curious to try more boards. Our game group liked it. Great production. Very good time. The only thing I don't like about it, there's one thing I don't. If I had to nitpick, it's in a box about that tall and that thin. Like it's like a shoe box for slip-ons. Don't totally like that just because it's hard. It's like the width of like one of these standard Ticket to Ride boxes, but it's like you can't put anything on top of it because then it'll just tilt, right?
Yeah.
That's a minor thing, but overall really cool.
Well, it's
production.
roughly the size of the new All Play larger boxes, right? Like Through the Desert.
Much thinner.
Much thinner. Huh?
They are significantly thinner. I mean, it's. I'm talking like, imagine this, but this Time's Up box, but half the thickness, and twice as tall or twice as long.
Something like that.
No, longer than that.
Oh.
Yeah, and so like literally, it's like take half of this box and stack it on top of the other one. It's really
for our audio listeners. I brought up the Time's Up
Time's
cube.
Up cube. Yep. So it's a little weird, but that's a minor complaint. If that is my biggest complaint, that should say how good.
Would you rather have that or the tin boxes?
If the tin was normally shaped, probably a 10.
Mm-mm.
Now, I'm not a fan of long boxes myself. And
I don't mind long boxes if they're like those ones over there.
Yeah, those are fine.
Pretty much the same shape.
Yeah.
The only problem with the long boxes, like you said, that messes with the shelving space. Tins, I can't stack anything on a tin. As much as I love my Fallout Shelter lunchbox, I have to move it around this way it doesn't get smashed by anything.
Yeah,
and
that's
so that's really annoying. At least that other one is like, yeah, it has to sit on top of something, or I can make sure if I can balance it just right, well, fine, or put little smaller games on there. Yeah. I can't do that on a tin.
Well, the thing is, it's just like the right size where nothing else matches it. So, like, normally you could just put 2 next to each other. Like, those ones, those are the same size. You could stack 2 next to each other. It would be fine. But, like, this is literally, like, just kind of awkwardly shaped.
Yeah,
but
it's not too much of a problem.
It is a minor complaint. Again, the game itself, the production value inside of the box, amazing.
All right, so my last game I want to talk about real quick is a game that we played right when we came back. Gamehead Geek came over, and it was my pick, so I got to play some Kinderspiel games, one off the Shuffle of Shame and one we haven't played in a while. But the one off my Shuffle of Shame is one I've been wanting to play for quite a bit of time, and this one is called Village. I have the big box version of it. It's a recent version. I think 2023 is when it came out, the big box. 22 or 23
Something
is when
like
the big box
came out.
came
Yeah, it's very recent.
Yeah, so we played the base game only. I think the board itself is gorgeous. I love the new artwork they have on it because it gives you that classic medieval style art, but it pops. It's very bright. So great production value on this game. Little bit of not really a nitpick, but it's just a little convoluted with some of the rules that you have to go in there. So you're placing your people out there. If you want to bring people in, you have to make sure you take a cube. And so that's the thing is that we had to basically explain, and I had to explain a couple times. You always have to take a cube. You don't have to take the action.
Yeah.
Once we started understanding that, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
And there was a number of times where we're like, wait, I want to do this, but I don't have any use for that action. You're like, again, you don't have to take the action, but you have to take a cube.
Because the cube is the timer for the round.
Yes.
And so we're doing all that. I love the different cubes. I like the fact that it's the rondelle style, like the ratchet of time and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So everything you do is going to cost you time of some sort. If you're going to send a worker to become basically a blacksmith, then it's going to cost you 4 time to go there.
Yep.
Now, whenever he's there, all you have to ever pay is 2 time. Or you can just outright pay the cubes if you have the cubes as a resource, but you still have to take a cube to do that action. So if I wanted to go to the blacksmith and there's no cubes there, I can't take the cubes, so I can't do the action there. So yeah, I like that part about it. The market itself is a little convoluted because there's only one market cube, and someone takes that cube, it triggers the market value for everybody, and then it doesn't refill till everybody passes. Yeah. And so there's only like 4 or 5, depending on the player count, things that you can sell, depending on the resources. It's quite interesting how it works. I like the fact that the person who activates the market, they get it for free, and then every time people sell, so you could sell multiple times.
Right.
So he would activate the market, then he does his thing, and then it comes to me, and either I have to pay time in a cube to do the action, or I have to pass. Then it goes to Gamehead Geek. He has to do the same thing. And then it goes back to you. Now you have to pay the cube in the time to do a second sell action. I like that aspect. I love the little mini game where you're making a tour down the thing. I love the making the people on the farm. This way you get more and more generations. And I love the rule that when someone dies, or when your time, one of your older meeples, first generation, second generation, third generation, and fourth generation, the older ones have to die and pass away. Either you put it in the chronicle or you put it in the graveyard, and that's your timer for how long the game's going to last. Yep. And so people can play around with that. I loved everything aspect of this one. That countdown track is like, ooh, but I don't want to kill this guy. This one's here. But I could take this one from the farm and put it there because he's on the farm right now. So I could put that in the chronicle. This way I don't have to lose that one and put it in the graveyard. So I love that little push and pull right there. I love the worker placement-esque on it because it's not really a worker placement when you think about it. You don't place the worker there and take the action. Right. You take the action based on the cube that you're pulling off the board, but you're putting a worker out there to train them and to do something to make the action better for you somewhere down the road.
Yep.
I love every aspect about this game. Very fun game from Inca and Marcus Brand. I enjoy it. Village.
Cool. And welcome, Illuminous. Thanks for joining in.
And yes, we're back.
The next game and last game I wanted to talk about today was a game that you and I played. We were excited to try it. I got a copy. On our trip to Gamma, I dove at it. And when I found, because you, I think, were the one who pointed out to me, like, oh, look, it's that. And I just dived because I wanted to buy it because you knew how much I wanted that.
Yeah.
And I brought it out during our pick, and we played it. And I think that was probably pretty much collectively everyone's favorite game of the night. This is Gnar from Panasaurus Games.
I don't know if it was my favorite. Like I said, it was
either
push
one
and pull of the other Panasaurus games.
Yes, it was either that or Mind Up.
Yeah.
But no, Gnar. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I actually brought that to my other game group and we played that as well. Mm-hmm. And one of our mutual friends, he always says, like, whenever I tell him a game, he's like, all right, how much does it say that it takes to play on the box? And I would say, 45 minutes. He's like, got it, an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And because he always just assumes that everything's twice as much, if not 3 times as much.
Yeah, and
I was like, no, this literally is a 30-minute game. He was like, an hour, got it. He was like, you need to be going to bed pretty soon because I had to wake up at 5:30 that morning.
Yeah.
And this was already pushing 1 a.m. I was like, no, it's a 30-minute game, trust me. He was like, sure, you're the one who has to get up early. I don't care. He's like, all right, cool. So I busted out. We played it. 30 minutes later, the game was over. And, man, yeah, it's so satisfying. The way NAR works is pretty simple. You have a number of different cards, 5 different colors, and they have a number of symbols on it, different resources or victory points or reputation, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When you play a card, you put it in your personal columns of that same color. So if I play a yellow card, I play it on top of all my other yellow cards. Then I activate all the abilities on all the yellow cards I have, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or, on my turn, I can discard a number of those character cards to buy one of the...
Plus, or tokens.
Or tokens, yep. To buy one of the, like, basically victory point, like landscape cards, which go seat above your board, and you can spend bracelets, or whatever the...
It's bracelets.
Whatever they're called, yeah. You can spend those to get points throughout it, but you also get a reward when you get those. So think of it kind of like Splendor. You know, you either get tokens or you're getting those. Except imagine if the tokens had abilities, and the color of the token you put down determines what kind of tokens you take into your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And the bonus cards that you buy also give you abilities, which will let you possibly get more tokens and or more other cards.
And then there's the smaller cards, which gives you special abilities, and then there's the bigger cards, which are going to give you straight up points, plus some extra stuff, but they cost a lot more too.
Yeah, exactly. So just to be clear, that sounds more complicated than it is. It's a very simple game.
It took us a little longer just to play or to learn the game than it is to actually play the game. We're like, oh, I get this. Okay, boom, 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 boom. We did that, and then done.
Yep. Great little package. Good price point. Great art. Good cards. Fun game. I like it a lot.
NAR. I actually have a copy somewhere around here now.
Oh, nice. And it's not on your shelf of shame.
Nope, it is not. I think it's somewhere on that pile over there.
Sure.
Alrighty, and I don't have a shelf of shame anymore. I have a pile of shame behind me.
That's right. That's right. So now we're going to get into today's episode. We're going to talk about, again, our Champions Edition. Now, we do only have a couple of honorable mentions. So before we get into our honorable mentions, I want to bring up the fact that we have a contest going on. We talked about it at the top of the episode. Why are you giggling, Daniel?
Chad's making funnies.
Oh, Chad is making fun of us. That's right. So there may or may not have been bloopers on our live filming. You know, it happens. We're going to talk about this contest. We talked about it at the top of the episode. Daniel, tell them what our viewers have a chance to win.
They get to win a chance for a copy, but not just one. Two chances to win copies of matches. We're also going to give you the option, if you do win, if you want us to crack the sealed copy, to have the designer of matches sign it for you. Right there.
We'll even give you the option, if you want him, who had no purpose into this creation, to sign it if you want. And yes, Illuminous, you have a chance to win a second copy of matches. Yeah. Give it to a friend, whatever works.
And so the way this is going to work is you need to be in an entry for this. Follow us as a subscriber on YouTube, a follower on Twitch. You need to follow us on Instagram as well. All of those are to get you into the drawing. Plus, if you are a subscriber to us on Twitch, you get 3 additional draws. And then the last way to do it is you get in contact with us at our email at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. In the body, you place, or not in the body, in the subject you place contest. And in the body, you tell us the code phrase.
With today's code phrase, on brand, let it burn. I repeat, let it burn is your code phrase. You email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com with that in the body of that, again, let it burn. And in the subject line, you can, all caps, sure. And you can put it as the contest as the subject line, and that will be another ticket in your entry. We do want to clarify, this is going to be the contiguous 48 on the United States. We spent way too much on shipping. We're not quite that big yet, but so please understand that. But yeah, reach
and also,
out. Feel free to enter.
It is 2 copies, so 2 people are winning a copy.
That's right. Not the same person twice. We won't. It's going to be 2 separate copies, and we'll ship it to you, and we'll reach out and let you know if you have won, and also if you would like the copy signed.
All right. With that being said, let's get into our top 8 debate. Why don't you explain to people how this works?
So, our top 8 debate, very simple. We take the top 8 highest ranked games of our category, whether it's a publisher, game mechanism, designer, whatever. This is a special episode. We'll talk about that in a moment. And we break them down college football bracket style. Allow me to show you our board.
And again, headphone listeners, be forewarned.
That's right. We apologize. There is Velcro on this, so we apologize ahead of time. We have our brackets right here. We have the 8 seeds, and we are going to be breaking them down one by one, head to head, until we have a winner. How is this going to work? It's really simple. We have 5 criteria that we break down each of our games and when we have our debate. The first one is ease of play.
And ease of play basically means that we need to have the simplicity and familiarity of the mechanism for people to get it to the table. The likelihood to get to the table based on the mechanism or the theme. And is it easy to learn, understand, and or teach?
Yeah, then we have replay value, which is the length of time it takes to play versus how much it can scale with the player counts. Mm-hmm. Does it scale well? Does it feel like it's a good amount of time per player? Minimum number of plays that you can play it for the minimum or for the full experience to fully understand and see most of the content, at least have a good understanding of it. And the expandability, that includes already existing expansions, up to one possible future expansion that's been confirmed by the publisher or designer, or ones that are in works, of course.
Yes. The third criteria we go by, meaningful choice. This is the impact on other players' strategy, the depth of strategy, tactics, or skills, as well as do arbitrary choices or AP, analysis paralysis, make an impact on the gameplay.
And then second to finally, we have, penultimately, we have game immersion. Is the game fun to lose? Do you have that player interaction? Do you feel like you're playing out the theme, if there is any? Do you have that table talk, the role playing amongst the players? And also, what is this going to get, or is this game going to give you as far as like stand up memorable moments? Are you going to remember those years in the future, telling your friends about this one time? Guess what happened during this game? That's a really big positive for it.
And one of the big things we always talk about here is with Damn It Dom. One of our memorable moments playing Lewis and Clark the Expedition. He went all the way back to New Orleans, went to Mardi Gras, and then beat us.
Yep, still beat us. It was amazing.
And then finally, the last criteria for us is art and production. The art. And I know this is subjective, but which one has the better art style? Yep. The pieces and components. Minis are going to beat out a lot of other, like just plastic tokens or cardboard chits, most likely. And finally, and a very big important one for us, because we are colorblind, is the graphic design. Is it able to be read by people like us?
Yeah, and not only that, like, is it icon heavy? Is it covered with paragraphs of words on a single card? Like, would you need magnifying glasses to read it? Do the icons make sense? Like, all the function, the easier it does to get to the table and understand and play, the better. And then finally, if for some reason Daniel and I cannot agree on this, that's why it's so important that you go to the Facebook page, the group, the Board Game Revolution group. It's a huge board game group that's awesome. They're on Facebook. Go to there, and we post our polls every time that we do one of these top 8 debates, and let the fans vote in on that. And that will be our tiebreaker if you and I cannot agree, which with these games coming up, probably will have some contention.
These are really good games. That's the big thing.
And they're very different. That's the thing. They all each won their own collective categories. So some are better than others. We'll find out. But before we get into the 8, or actually let's tell them what 8 we're going to do before our honorable mentions.
Sounds good.
We have our number 1 seed, Concordia,
going up against our number 8 seed, New York Zoo. Now I want to mention Concordia won our action retrieval top 8 debate, and New York Zoo won the Uwe Rosenberg championship.
That's right. And we have our number 2 seed, Cascadia,
going up against our number 7 seed, Risk Legacy. Cascadia won pattern building, and Risk Legacy won War Game.
Oh, we got some hate from that. Our number 3 seed, Detective,
going
a
up
modern
against
crime board game. Sorry.
Going up against our number 6 seed, Long Shot the Dice Game. Detective was our murder mystery winner, and Long Shot the Dice Game was our roll and write winner just recently.
Yep. And our number 4 seed, Santorini,
going up against our 5 seed, King Domino. Santorini was our theme construction winner, and King Domino was the blue-orange winner.
All right, so we'll pull this board back out when we're ready to do our debates. because for right now, my arm is already tired. Let's talk about honorable mentions. There were 2 other games that went into this. I'll tell you my honorable mention first, and we'll go to our fan ones and get into the debate.
There's no fan ones. We just got
comments. Oh, that's right. There is no fan honorable mentions.
That's right.
But we can talk about their opinions on it later on.
Yeah.
All right. So, my first honorable mention is Dice Throne, specifically the Santa versus Krampus.
And that won the Christmas top 8 debate.
Yeah, that won the Christmas top 8 debate. I mean, we both love Dice Throne. It's been a day, people. I'm sorry. Dice Throne, it's such a fun game. This was our head-to-head. Even though we agreed that it wasn't one of the most thematically Christmas ones, what did pull it out is the fact that it's a really solid gameplay, and that holds true for all of the Dice Throne.
Yes.
The fact that everything's compatible against each other, they're great components, beautiful production, and they're just genuinely really fun. And all characters, not only are they compatible, you have superheroes, you have Santa and Krampus, you have ones that are unique to only the Dice Throne universe. They're all like very thematic as far as how they play. Like the gunslinger, for example, has like a bunch of bullets that you could throw off, and they only have like a chamber of what they could do. Like Spider-Man is like throwing webs at people and like restricting what they can do. Santa versus Krampus, though, you have Santa, who's all about giving gifts, and both players gain advantages and all that stuff. Krampus is throwing coal, and once you have a certain number of coal, you have a demerit against you. It's super cool how it works. We like it a lot. And, this, honestly, if it was just ranked a little bit higher, obviously would have been in our top 8 debate, because we chose the 8 that were the highest ranked out of this. But this is not only just an honorable mention as far as by default, because it is. I really would have picked this game for this, because it's just such a great game. And I think it honestly should have been on this list higher than some of the ones that already are.
Yeah, and so specifically, since we debated specifically Dice Throne, Santa versus Krampus, I went with its ranking on BGG, because this was in the Christmas game style. And so it is ranked on BGG at 2,049. And so the game,
also partially because it's kind of an expansion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's playable by itself, but it's not expected to play it without already some Dice Throne already.
Yeah, and so I made the decision just because it was specifically Santa versus Krampus. It wasn't like Dice Throne. So like I would have considered Dice Throne Marvel. Yeah. Those would have been fine, but this one was this specific. We were debating this one specific, so that's why I went that route.
Cool.
The game I am going to talk about in our honorable mention is the one that won our 2023 Games of the Year top 8 debate. And so both of us really enjoyed this one. Both of us were actually shocked that this game won 2023, but we understood why. And it's the reason why we do our 5 criteria. It takes a lot of our bias out of it. And this is Disney Lorcana.
Yeah, Disney Lorcana, it's set a really high bar, a high precedent already. Yeah. And you and I both enjoyed playing it, but whew.
Yeah, and so it's sitting on BGG at 1,793.
Yep.
I enjoy the mess out of this game. It's a very simple collectible card game-esque style where you're not really having to fight the other player. You're trying to be the first one to have the most, I forget what it's called, but let's just say magical points. I think it's most lore, I think it's what it's called. Yeah. And so what you're trying to do is you have a choice of when you get your cards out there, you can turn one card into an ink pot if they have that symbol that allows them to become an inkwell. And that's basically, if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, that's your lands. Your inks are what's going to use to bring out your high-powered cards out there. And so they have little different code phrases on there. So like we talk about it all the time when it comes to like Pongo. I beat you by Pongo because he had fast. And every time you couldn't attack him when he was tapped or set or whatever it's called in there. Because he was fast and you couldn't get him. And when you got your fast character out there, I saved a card to immediately destroy your fast character out there. And so all it is trying to go on an adventure to get as much lore, or if that creature has already been on an adventure, you can go ahead and attack them. You're not basically taking away someone's life points. It's a race to 20. I like a lot of that aspect. My wife enjoyed it. Our friends enjoyed it. I have every single starter pack. I haven't played the newer set yet, just because I haven't just got it to the table. Like I said, 2-player games don't get played all that often. But I do have them. I want to try those out because they add lands to the card system. So I want to see how that goes. But so my honorable mention, Disney Lorcana.
Very cool. All right, so when we get into our debate, we're going to be breaking down each of these brackets. We're almost ready to go into this episode. What's going to happen is I'm going to flip the coin of doom, and that's going to choose which Daniel debates first. And Daniel here is going to pull the 2 seeds from the cup of doom.
That is not
to
the cup of doom. That's my coffee cup.
That is your coffee cup.
The cup of doom's over here.
Slightly more doomful, depending on how hot that coffee is. And I thought since today we just got buttons and bugs, and since we're doing Champions of Champions, which Gloomhaven was our first one, we're going to be flipping this beautiful Frosthaven coin. Let's look in that right there. From the good folks at Cephalo Fair Games. We have a beautiful coin. Daniel, are we almost ready?
Oh, I'm ready. I got the first 2 drawn.
Here we go. So our first 2, again, is going to be Concordia.
Okay. I was going to say, you don't want to talk about the comments real quick?
Oh, sure. Let's hear what the fans had to say. Go ahead and scroll on down for me. So, Ollie said, long shot the dice game is just really fun. It puts fun in the front room. It is also quick with almost no downtime. Easy to learn and easy to teach. Can be played with just about anyone.
Timothy adds, Cascadia. It's light enough to be played midweek, yet strategic enough to feel like a game. I could play it with any gaming group or my kids.
Paul said, I haven't played Concordia and would probably love it, but Cascadia is a great and simple system with multiple overlaid puzzles to manage and solve. High variability and a lovely theme.
And then Concordia, added by John here. Concordia is my favorite game in gaming career that extends back to 1974. Simple rules, quick turns, multiple ways to win, building your own scoring engine, interaction in the forms of actions that could benefit others as well as you. In the board blocking, deck building from a card market, tension to end because you never know just how many points everyone else will score, and the cards in their hand. So yeah, I agree with a lot of those comments. Yep. That's why all of these games have won something today.
Yep, and that's why we're going to be getting into this. So, Daniel, let's begin our number 1 seed, Concordia, versus our number 8 seed, New York Zoo. This is the first fight of our bracket. Let's get into this. Here we go. I'll be starting us off.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's heads, dude.
That's a heads.
You get New York Zoo.
New York Zoo, very cool. So, I mean, both of these games are about animals, if you ignore the fact that Concordia is not about animals. So, New York Zoo, this is Uwe Rosenberg.
In all honesty, New York Zoo is not about animals either.
It's really not about animals. If you also ignore the fact that New York Zoo is also not about animals. No. So, the way New York Zoo works is a really cool little puzzle. It's not like most Euro games. It's not the most victory points. It's not who does the best over the thing. It's a race to fill your board. That's your goal. You have polyomino pieces that'll be filling in your weird shaped board, and the way you do that is by building out these enclosures and getting animals to populate them. When you get these enclosures and you populate them with animals, then those animals can multiply and give you bonuses on top of it. Because oftentimes on your turn, you have one single communal piece that you're moving 1 to 3 spaces on this rondel. Some of the spaces have different types of animals. Certain ones have different tiles that you can place out. And by filling in certain parts of your board with animals, you're able to get even bigger tiles that can slot in there and fill in the empty spaces, which is what you're going to need to secure victory. So on your turn, you're going to move it 1 to 3 spaces. If you land on a tile, you take that tile, slide it on in. If you happen to have some animals in your pen, you could bring them on over and bring them in. That's totally fine. Or, if you wanted to, you can instead land on one of the animals and bring those animals of different types into your board. That's important because at certain times, there will be breeding spots where once they do that, it triggers a breeding for every player. And if you have 2 or more of the same type of animal that's triggered on the board that is triggered by this, then they multiply and they create another one, possibly filling in your board faster, possibly causing that other example of getting extra enclosures.
Yeah.
This game, I mean, while it is not thematic, it's really not, other than, I guess, technically the breeding part, and I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that it's like one more. I mean, I don't know what kind of zoo would just, like, we're just trying to fill it up with pens. Yay, who cares if there's animals in it?
Now they're gone. They're over here into this pen over here, and then they go into this new pen over there. But it's not an upgrade, it's a downgrade.
Yeah, it's a downgrade. like it's just, it's like this massive enclosure. It just says, we'll return soon.
So,
thematically, if you set that aside, it is easy to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Moving a space, getting a piece, sliding it in, that's easy to understand. It's very replayable. I mean, just the way everything works. The pieces and components are just absolutely top notch. I mean, they're beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
All of the meeples, the animeeples, they're shaped like their style. They're good bits. There's extra boxes that you can slide around the bits. All the pieces are good chunky boards. The colors are clear. Everything makes a lot of sense. And the art is really pretty too. In game immersion, while even though the theme actively works against the game immersion, it's still pretty memorable when one player triggers like the animal breeding and everyone's like, woo, I feel this enclosure, I feel this enclosure, I feel this, and you're like, oh, I haven't had flamingos ever. Like that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Or when one person gets like those great combos, like, ooh, I'm gonna breed this, which will trigger this, which will let me get this enclosure, which will put this in here, and that's really satisfying. So I don't know, I like it a lot personally.
I do really enjoy the game. Yeah, it's a good game.
This is probably never gonna leave my collection.
Same.
And if it wasn't against Concordia, I would say this is almost a shoe-in to move on.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you.
I'm not saying it won't move on, but I want to hear your argument first.
The thing about Concordia, there's a reason why it's so high. I'm looking at where it is sitting in the top 100, and it's top 25. And there's a reason for that. For a game that looks as daunting as Concordia is, it's actually quite simple.
It looks almost like a war game.
Yeah,
in a way.
But it's quite simple. All you're doing is you're playing a card down, and you're doing exactly what it tells you to do. And eventually, you're going to have to pick all your cards up, and that's going to be, you're going to play a card that allows you to get all your cards up. You're adding stuff to your deck based on stuff on the board, your area control, you're blocking things. There's a lot of little moving parts on here. Everything you would describe says, I'm not going to like this game. Area control, I'm fine with that, but I'm not a huge fan of it.
Right. I actively dislike it.
Yeah, and then you have the action selection by playing a card. That was like one of my favorite mechanisms, and every time you kept saying, dude, you need to try this one if you love this mechanism.
Yep.
Tried it. I love that. You adding stuff to your deck.
How long was it before I actually finally got you to play it? And I know it was on one
year.
of my picks, yeah. Because I had it in my collection for probably about 4 or 5 years now.
And so, yeah, everything that was said about this game, it holds true because it's quite simple. It's not long. It plays pretty quickly. It's much easier to teach than you would think. And that is the big thing about it. When we're talking about ease of play, is it easy to teach, learn, or understand? This thing is very simple to teach, and it looks very daunting, too. When you're seeing it out there and the boards are getting seeded with the resources.
Yep.
So, yeah, it is phenomenal. And I think for me personally, it goes on because I think it is the better game. But I say let's break it down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if we're not sure, let's break it down to our 5 criteria. Again, there's the 5 ease of play. I think that's going to go to New York Zoo, personally. While even though the deck building part of it is somewhat understandable and the action selection is somewhat, there's so many moving parts. I think it's just really hard.
I'm not disagreeing.
And really,
with
that cover puts it off as far as wanting to get that to the table.
So for me personally, when I'm going by our 5 criteria, I think New York Zoo wins 2 of these things. It wins the ease of play, and it wins art and production. Those are the 2 I think it'll win because it's much better looking.
Yeah.
It's got better components, better art style, and the graphic design's a little bit easier to read.
Sure.
Because there is a little bit of a color issue with Concordia. In the ease of play, I give you that. But the replay value for Concordia,
yes, I
they're
agree.
both pretty much the same length of time. New York Zoo seems it's a lot simpler, but it does take up some time.
Oh, it's significantly faster. New York Zoo is very much faster.
No, I've played both of these, and both of them were around the same time.
I'm not saying Concordia is
I
longer.
have the timers to prove it.
Every time I played New York Zoo, it's been significantly faster. You guys are just speed demons, so we played Concordia also really fast.
Yeah.
So we just queued it up. But even Illumina said, the updates, Concordia could use an update on the visuals, which, I mean, they got
That's
a
what I'm saying.
remake
New York
on
Zoo
it.
gets the art and production.
It's the art and production. And I agree with the replay value. The only one I'm hung up on is game immersion, right? They're both really fun to lose. They're both satisfying, right? None of them, I don't feel thematically like I mean, granted, even though it's kind of broken, I still feel more like I'm building a zoo than I'm trading in the Mediterranean in a way. Just because of the way that the pieces move.
I'm the other way around because I could put anything on New York Zoo and it'll still give me the same satisfaction. You could put an amusement park on New York Zoo and it would still give you the same satisfaction. But
those are both attractions. Like, you know, like I get it. Like you're trying to bring more people in, you're trying to build it up.
Let me think of something else here. You could put a forest game on New York Zoo.
Sure.
No, that's not an attraction. You're just filling up your blocks for a forest, and you got different trees.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sure.
So yeah, it doesn't give me that game immersion aspect. Both are fun to lose.
I don't think either of them particularly do. I just feel like New York Zoo, like thematically, makes more sense of why, like while you're multiplying your animals, why there can only be one type of animal per enclosure, because you wouldn't do that in a normal zoo anyway. With some exceptions.
The thing is, like with me you're coming from that aspect. I'm coming from a history major, so like the blocking. No, hear me out.
Okay.
There are different nations blocking other people from going to the trade to this port and stuff like that, trying to get these resources. That gives you that historical feel. Yeah, it's in a board game style, but you're messing with other people just like they would during that time frame.
Okay, I didn't feel that, and I'm not coming from a historical standpoint. I'm not saying that's invalid. I mean, I'm sure with a historical standpoint that makes more sense. He just wants to
argue. We're calling game immersion a wash. Meaningful choice.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying, like this is the only one that doesn't clearly have a winner. You know what I mean? Like
it has a clear winner for me. But you disagree, so
I really don't.
We'll call it a wash. I think meaningful choice and replay values Concordia, ease of play aren't production or New York Zoo. That's how I'm standing right now.
Okay.
Where are you standing?
Let's break it down. I agree with you on those two. I just don't think game immersion goes either of them.
Dinosaur Island has a better chance against New York Zoo. Yes, it does.
Yes, as far as that is. How dare they not put pandas in the lion's den? That's right.
All right, so moving into the poll, moving on, it looks like it will be Concordia. I'm just giving it a little refresh.
And again, this is why it's so important that people vote on our...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, significantly so. All right, so... Headphone listeners, please plug your ears for just a quick moment. That means Concordia is moving on. Here we go. All right. So, now we're going into our number 2 bracket. This is our number 2 seed Cascadia versus number 7 Risk Legacy. I never thought I would say that before. You know, this is one of the reasons I like these champion episodes, because it comes up with just really strange...
Random stuff, yeah.
Random battles against each other. So... here we go. Again, you'll be starting us off.
And I get Risk Legacy.
Okay.
All right, so this one is going to be a little tough one because one of my favorite games of all time is... Hold on, I got to figure something out because the wind is blowing stuff around. I think it's these two. All right, cool. So Risk Legacy is one of... My issue with Risk Legacy is we haven't finished it. So I can't tell you the overarching story on this.
So full disclosure, we have not completed the full Legacy campaign. So take that into account.
Yeah. But the thing about Risk Legacy, once you got the feel of it, it still plays like Risk. So if you're very familiar with how Risk works, we just haven't opened all the stuff that we could open. We haven't seen too much on that aspect of things. But we've played it enough times. I think we played it like 3 or 4 times games where we can understand what's going here. We've already made modifications to the board. Mm-hmm. This is one of the earlier versions of a Legacy game.
Right. And both of you and I have both played a number of Legacy games.
Yes.
So
or
we do see where a lot of this
styles,
is going. Yeah.
And so for me, it's very, very good. It's great production value for a game from Hasbro, of all places.
2011, I think is when it came out.
2011, yeah. It's legitimately the first Legacy game that was ever created.
Thank you, Rob Davio, friend of the podcast.
It is the grandfather of Legacy games, as I like to call it. The daddy of Legacy is Pandemic. That's the one that got everybody doing Legacy games.
Yep.
But Risk Legacy is one that started it all. And it's my only issue with Risk Legacy is it's not an easy game to play, even with a lot of people already know how to play it. Because if you're talking to someone who's now into modern board gaming, didn't really play a lot of the classics, just jumped into this, and you explain how Risk works, and they're going to be like, is it like Catan? No. Is it like... What game would you qualify to modern style for this one? And it's kind of one of those hard ones. Area Control, if you like Blood Rage, maybe you'll like this one. Or
Right. Well, here's the thing, though. Like, almost everybody knows Risk, though. Like,
not necessarily.
Anybody who would have...
They know of Risk, but they don't know how Risk plays.
Right. Well, I mean, if you don't know how Risk plays, you're probably not looking at Risk Legacy anyway. And we're not playing to... Or we're not... This podcast isn't for non-gamers, per se. This is just for people who are already in the industry. And if you're already, like, familiar with a lot of the new modern games, you know what Risk is.
But the thing about it, yes, this podcast is about that, but based on our ease of play criteria, we're not looking at it.
No, I think that's a modern classic enough where people are very familiar with. I mean, it was on an episode of Seinfeld, for goodness sakes.
It was on an episode of Seinfeld, but yes, it's in the big market. But I've known quite a few people who play board games that have never played Risk in their life.
Right. And the people who have never played Risk have never played anything like Cascadia.
Oh,
No. What have they played that's similar to Cascadia when you haven't played Risk and you haven't played like some of the hobby or the non-hobby market games or the
Wait, how are you trying to reference that?
No, yeah. You're explaining it in a way where it's like this is not familiar mechanisms. If it's not familiar to you, then what in Cascadia is?
I'm not saying it's not familiar mechanisms. I'm talking about more likely get hood to the table. If people are actively avoiding Risk, they're going to actively avoid Risk Legacy.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair. I thought you were talking about the familiarity of the mechanism. Like, no.
Some people are not familiar with Risk. They have the idea and the concept of like dudes on the map and chucking dice. And there's a lot of people who don't like that aspect either of just battling with dice.
Yeah, almost the entirety of the invention of Euro games was because of Risk. Right?
Pretty much.
Sure, I'll give you that. Mercy of the dice roll, that's right.
Yeah, and so, there you go, Mercy of the dice roll. And so my thing is, like, as much as I like Risk, and I think it's a phenomenal game. Risk is, out of all the classic games, when you can talk about, like, Scrabble, Monopoly, Catan even, I would rather play Risk.
Yeah.
Because just all those other things, especially when it comes to, like, Scrabble and Candyland and all that. Yeah, no, I don't want to touch those. I'll touch Risk. I even own a copy of Risk, first edition, and it's in the closet over there, as well as Mass Effect Risk. I do like it. Mm-hmm. Do I think it moves on? It should, but it's going up against a very heavy hitter. It's kind of in the same boat as New York Zoo was, where it is... it's kind of in the same boat where New York Zoo was. It's going up. If it was going up against some of these other games, it probably would have a better chance. Yeah. In fact, I think it would have a better chance than our 3 seed would have had.
Right.
If those two went up, but it's going up against Cascadia, which is a Spiel winner.
Yes, absolutely. And so I'm going to argue for Cascadia. Now, amongst the two games, I like Cascadia better. Full disclosure, I'm a big fan of Spiel winners, and this was 100% the kind of Spiel winner I'm looking for.
And you're quite happy it won the Spiel because you didn't have to go buy another game.
That's right, because that was the only one of the 3 at the time that I owned. I was like, please win because I don't have to go buy another one. Not that I ended up, I think, buying them anyway, depending on which other ones were nominated, but I probably bought them.
Yep.
Because, of course. No, I mean, like, that was one of the big references. So, like, Risk, the base Risk, when apparently, in the Europe market, after the war, some of the people who didn't win, unfortunately, didn't really want to play a game about, worldwide conflict. That's kind of uncomfortable. Understandably so. So they invented these games where it's like, you're all kind of aiming for the same goal and just who can do it more efficiently. That's kind of the rise of the Euro game in that general term. Mm-hmm. And Risk was a direct source of that, because of that. There was 2. Yeah, I'm sure Diplomacy was probably the other one, right? Yeah. I mean, it wasn't Acquire, let's be real. It probably wasn't that one. But it's just, like, those aren't exactly, like... People were a little uncomfortable with that, which I get.
Especially during that time frame, too. A lot of it was in the rebuilding. You also had the Cold War going on, where Berlin was basically encased by the USSR.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, I get that aspect of it. But again, I mean, Risk is in the zeitgeist too at the same time, whereas Cascadia is a really beautiful, elegant drafting game and tile laying game, which is only really came about with more or less Carcassonne is kind of like the big one that really
tiling,
yeah. And so as far as
other things did drafting, so
right, and there's other things that did drafting, but really like tile laying and drafting put together like this. It's a really clean design. It's also a fairly newer game. It's only like 3 or 4 years old. But with that being said, what this does differently that a lot of these other games don't do is that you are drafting two things at the same time. You draft what animal type and the tile. The tile needs to seed in as best as you can. You're trying to connect only biospheres or biomes or whatever together, and then only certain tiles can get certain types of animals. And these animals are going to score in different ways. There is huge replayability as far as how modular it is. Every time you play, you're going to be playing with the same tokens and tiles. That's no different. But how each animal type scores is totally different.
Oh, yeah.
And you can just mix them randomly. You can have just some of those. They've even made a new expansion that I think just came out.
Mm-hmm. Landmarks.
Landmarks, yeah. So even then, we have more. And that's something Risk Legacy doesn't have as expansions. Not that it needed it. I am very opposed to legacy or legacy expansions.
That's why they do standalones.
That's why they normally do standalones. I have seen one, apparently, but, they don't tend to have it that often. Now, let's talk about breaking it down, because I think these games really do deserve us to break down each and every one. Normally, I would say there's a clear winner, let's just go into it. But because these are the champion of champions, and they've all won for a specific reason, I think it's worth our time to break these down.
I don't disagree.
Ease of play. While 100% I think likelihood or familiarity of the mechanism is Risk Legacy, hands down. Because it's Risk at the first game. It's literally, and most kids growing up have played Risk at some time that have even started getting into
Not the younger ones, because a lot of the parents won't touch Risk nowadays.
Maybe, right? Maybe. Well, I mean...
Has your son ever played Risk? I rest my case.
I think so. He's played Risk Strike. I know that. The smaller
That
one.
doesn't count. That's the card game.
It's not much different, but it's 20 minutes. That's a big difference. But yeah, I mean, now that he's played that mini version, he's very familiar with that mechanism, right? Just roll some dice, compare them, done. Then likelihood to get in the table, while I think just the idea, personally, you remember Risk on Yahoo.com? Wow, that's pretty awesome. I think Risk Legacy would be more likely to get to the table. And while I agree with you that there's a big selection of people who are put off by the theme, I think because of the fact that you are playing this game that you grew up. No, I mean, hear me out. I wasn't the biggest fan growing up, but even then, my siblings and we would play Risk 2210 and Star Wars Risk or variations of Risk. If we saw, Game of Thrones Risk, we'd probably play it because it's a Risk version of a theme we like. The fact that this is Risk and it's hey, not only is it Risk, you're making permanent alterations, that's awesome. That is a great idea. And anybody who's interested in legacy games, why not play the first one?
I disagree.
I know you disagree, but I don't see how that couldn't work.
I think Cascadia has a better likelihood to get to the table. First off, animals.
It's just pretty. That's all it has going for it.
Yeah, but we're just doing examples of mechanism or themes. But
sure.
Pretty games are 10 times more likely to get played to the table. And the time length is another aspect of this one. Cascadia is so much quicker, and so I can pull every game group I have outside of our main game group, and Cascadia would get to the table before Risk.
The one other one.
I have one other, my family.
Okay, sure.
And Cascadia would get to the table other than my friends group and my family group. Risk would not be touched. My father, unfortunately, passed away. He'd be the only one wanting to play Risk.
Sure.
So, yeah, I can't give you the likelihood to get to the table. I think Cascadia is the likelihood to get to the table.
All right, counter argument. All of my family would rather play Risk. Most of the game groups that we have that come in the shop would rather play Risk instead of just the next pretty tile lane game. As much as I prefer that one, I would say.
We're not budging on this. Let's call it a wash.
Correct. All right, fine. Ease of play is a wash. Replay value.
Risk Legacy will get minimum number of plays for full experience, but the length and time and scaling well and the expandability.
Right. Now, one of the things that he does really well, Rob Davio specifically is who I'm talking about, in Risk Legacy, I like how he's first to 2 points. That's a big change he did in a lot of his development on future versions of Risk, instead of just whatever's left over, which is why it lasted so darn long. He literally just said, first to 2 points. And that is very obtainable. A Risk Legacy game plays in under an hour. It really does. Maybe a little bit more if you account for all
he
of the
just
updates.
wants to argue instead of, running through this real quick.
That's the point of... No, if you're running through it, you're not giving these games the time
I'm breaking
of
it
day.
down. I'm saying...
No, I agree. Risk Legacy moves on.
No, length and time and
We
scaling...
want to jump to conclusions here. Please explain, but again...
Length and time and scaling well, I think, is Cascadia. It's even at a full 4 or 5 player count, it's going to be a lot shorter than Risk Legacy. There's that. Minimum number of plays for a full experience of Risk Legacy goes to Risk Legacy because of the simple fact that it's a campaign game. It's gonna change as you're going. But the expandability is where I think Cascadia wins because there is one expansion.
Okay. I don't think it's that big of a scale. I think Risk Legacy, if I'm not mistaken, plays up to 6.
But I'm talking also the length of time as well.
Right.
Yes, 10 points is achievable. It's
Time
still
per player is about the same, though.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I have the times.
Yeah, it's like a 90-minute for a 6-player game. That's 15 minutes per player. If we're playing Cascadia for an hour and it's 4 players... Okay. Luminous came up with a really fun argument. Legacy is not replayable. It is.
Some are now.
For a minimum number of plays, yes. But yes, most of them are replayable. And Risk Legacy does continue to
Are we calling this a wash again?
No, I will give it to Cascadia. That's fine. But, again, you can't just, wash it out that quickly. You got to give it the time of day.
But the thing is
meaningful choice.
My
Cascadia.
thing is, you're giving the time of day too much time. That's the problem. We're trying to get these under 2 hours. You're making a 3-hour
mistake. We can't try to rush beauty that is the champion of champions.
God.
These have always been long. Yeah. No. Meaningful choice. Cascadia. All right. Anyway, game immersion. Risk Legacy.
Yes.
Okay. Now, art and production. This is a legitimately tricky choice.
And I don't know what I did here, but
art and production, I do think. If you click the X up on the top right, art and production. The art, I think, goes to Cascadia.
Oh, hands down, best solo art is gonna win.
Right.
Lot of time.
The pieces and components, because of the legacy part of it, and the hidden envelopes and the extra stuff that's added on, the sealed. Yeah, Risk Legacy isn't pretty. I agree with that. I agree. Pieces and components, I think, is Risk Legacy personally. I mean, you just have some tokens and some tiles. That's it in Cascadia.
Don't you have the wooden bits for the acorn, or are they?
No, I have the cardboard for the acorns, but all of the stock animals are wooden.
Yeah, okay, it's the animals that is wooden. Right. Yeah, I don't know. This one I'm kind of torn. For me, the pieces and components are wash for the aspect of it, because both card stocks are really good. The cardboard tiles are really good. The board's really good. The stickers could be better in Risk Legacy. They're not the greatest. So for me, the pieces and components are a wash.
Okay. And then art and graphic design, that's Cascadia.
Yeah.
That's very clear on that. So that means...
See how we can make that so much quicker.
No, well, I knew that those were going to go fast. We can break those down different. But the ease of play, I just don't think it's that easy to determine. That's all I'm saying. I mean, if you just want to just start, let's just flip coins at that point. I mean,
no, but I'm saying...
Got to give it the time of day.
My thing is, you can't give it that much time of the day. Because we don't want to do a 3-hour podcast. That was one of our goals. Is not
You're
to
spending more time arguing. This is going to go over 3 hours already. So why even bother? Don't fret, bro. You got this. All right. So does that mean it moves on, or is it
Cascadia moves on?
Cascadia moves on. All right. What was the first one that won? I didn't even write it down. Concordia. Right? All right. So here we go. Cascadia moves on, and we'll probably be fighting against this one down here. All right, here we go. So now we're going to go on to our number 3 seed, Detective, a modern crime board game, versus number 6 seed, Long Shot, the dice game.
Alrighty.
Again, what an odd combination.
I love the combinations on this one.
Yeah. All right, I'll be starting us off this time.
All right, you are getting Long Shot, the dice game.
Long Shot, the dice game. The one I remember very little. Long Shot, the dice game. This one are rolling right? Yes? Okay. Great pieces. The horse pieces on there on the track. Very clear, very vibrant. Numbers are on the top. Beautiful production. The cards.
You know what I find funny
everything's
about this?
Yeah.
Is that this is reverse. I remember very little Detective. I don't even own Detective anymore.
I mean, maybe we should swap it because I know you didn't even make it all the way through Detective,
No.
did you? Yeah, and I have, so I'll be making some counterpoints to myself here in a bit. But Long Shot the Dice game, it's pretty cool. You're trying to race the horses, but really you're just trying to gain the most victory points through a number of different ways. Yeah, you want your horses to win, of course. That's why you have horses, right? But you also want to make bets. And now if that bet goes against your horses, then
You're describing two different games.
well, how do you not make bets on this?
You don't make bets on Long Shot the Dice.
Don't you?
No, you're wanting your horse to win. You're just rolling stuff and then you're marking stuff off to make your horse move faster.
You should argue Long Shot the Dice game. Carry on. I don't remember this game.
So,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
So there, I think there is a little bit of betting in there, but you're getting like ready, set, bet in Long Shot the Dice game. A little confused with this one. You're just trying to get your horse to win. It's most points at the end of the game. You can get a little bit of points based off like. Not really betting, but I forget what it's called in this one. It's something interesting. I remember this one a lot more than I do Detective, but you're rolling your dice, you're trying to mark stuff, everybody's marking their stuff on their board. It's a roll and write in its case in point. A very well-produced roll and write.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just you're rolling your dice, you're moving your horses, you're basically racing. You're not really gambling like you're saying in the bet and stuff like that. There's stuff that you're basically set collecting is I think is the big thing. Is you're trying to get like something to match your jockey and something to match over here. And so it's more of a set collection and building your combos like most roll and write games. Whereas Detective is really cool on what it has to do. But when it comes to... You want me to just take over Long Shot?
Yeah. No, I wanted you to take it over about 5 minutes ago.
All right, so you get Detective. I'll take Long Shot.
Sounds good.
He's breaking the rules because he doesn't remember.
I'm just not giving it a valid argument. That's all I'm saying. We got to give it its time of day.
Yeah, and so it's a roll and write. Through and through, with a little bit of horse racing involved into it. You're rolling dice. You're trying to get your horse to move across the board. Your big gamble, I guess you could say, is which horse you're picking based on the dice rolls.
Right.
And so, but you're still trying to move that horse a thing, and so you're trying to build up combos by like, if this horse moves, then this horse moves, and you're doing stuff like that. It's through and through a roll and write game where you're trying. Think of Gone Clever, where you're building as much combos as you can, getting like that combo-rific this way. This is working properly, and this is working properly, and you have the side bet aspect, but it's not the big thing. It's just something that can give you a little bit more points. But it's a much easier game to play than Detective. The replay value, I cannot give Long Shot the Dice game for me personally, just because the way Detective is built.
Yeah, the way Detective built it.
Plus expansion.
Yeah. It does have expansions, yeah. And sequel.
Long Shot, I think, has like one little mini expansion that you'll get with the game.
Yeah.
Meaningful Choice, again, for me, that is a Detective game because there is meaningful choice in a roll and write, but there's arbitrary choices in this game because of the dice rolling. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I think Long Shot gets a lot more to it than people will give credit to, especially when it's going up against Detective. Because you do get immersive. It is fun to lose Long Shot the Dice game. It is not fun to lose Detective when you're getting yelled at.
I will make a counterpoint to that in a bit, yes. But I don't disagree with you on that. Your experience is 100% valid, but I'll explain why it's invalid in a minute.
Yes. But there's a little bit more memorable moments for us when it comes to Long Shot the Dice game. In the art and production, this one is where it's harder for me because the production value for such a small, really inexpensive roll and write game is amazing.
Yeah.
So, but go ahead. You can talk about Detective.
Right. So Detective, I agree with you on most of those too. I would give Detective game immersion because one of the biggest things that it has. So what Detective does, Modern Crime board game, you play over in the base game. It has 5 scenarios, and each of those has 5 different cases that you're trying to solve within a certain amount of time frame. Normally I think within a couple days worth of hours or whatever. And after that, the thing is, there is an overarching story to all 5 of them as well. One of the cool things about it is that a lot of the information is provided to you on these case files that have different weight, and once you unlock certain people, or once you've talked to certain witnesses or gotten more information, you unlock more information that can let you expand on it to help try and solve the case. All five of the cases are very different, but they still have the same overarching story, and it is incredibly immersive how it works. Now, to recount on what you were saying, how you had a very unpleasant experience. You stopped after the second scenario. Mm-hmm. Both of those scenarios, 100%, like, we thought we were playing it wrong because of how bad we did. And I really wish that didn't sour your experience so much, because the following 3 significantly improved that and made it overall a much better experience.
Here's my problem with that, and I have a big issue, and I get what you're trying to say.
Right.
When you don't give the hook in the first 2 scenarios, you're going to sour people.
Yes.
Massively, and that's what happened. That's a fault of game design. As much as I like Rob Davio, that is a fault of
Ignacy.
Yeah. I do like a lot of his games, but that is a massive fault.
And I agree, that was a very unpleasant thing, but what ended up happening afterward, once you had the full campaign completed, that definitely outshined the negative. And I know that, like I said, that was a barrier of entry that you guys didn't surpass. But now that I have, and it definitely made it better.
How many people after those first 2 plays are gonna keep trudging through? Because my group didn't.
But that doesn't mean that the game is done at that point. I still played the full experience. Yeah. So you can't use that as a counter argument. I mean, it ruined that experience for you.
I'm sorry, if the book can't hook me in the first 100 pages, it's done. It's going to my DNF.
But that doesn't mean that it's not a good book if the people who read it the entirety determine, it picked up later on. That's like saying, like, a TV show, the first season was trash, but the rest of them were great. Like, if somebody didn't make it past the first season, that doesn't mean that it's automatically bad. You know what I mean? It's still a great show for those that pursued it. It just unfortunately didn't catch the people who didn't make it past the first season. I get what you're saying, but that doesn't downplay the amazing experience that we had. The fun to lose, I give you. That's Long Shot the Dice Game. But player interaction and memorable moments, hands down, is Detective. No, hands down.
I can't, for the simple fact that, yes, you're saying, you can't discredit this, you can't discredit our experience either.
Right, but you didn't experience the full game.
We don't have to experience the full game.
Yes, you do.
No, that's in replay value, not in game immersion.
No, because that's where the immersion came in.
Not if it's pissing people off and they don't want to experience it anymore.
Again, I can't let this go through because game immersion, I 100% think is Detective. Because it's not, you're upgrading your horses mid-race. That is not immersive. That makes no thematic sense. That's not player interaction. That's not memorable. It's like, oh yeah, I comboed a dice roll.
When you
spent that much time trudging through a case, and you finally figured out, you got that aha moment. You're like, got it. Now this all makes sense. Now it's all falling into place. That's where the memorable moments lie.
I can't, because there's no memorable moments. It is basically we're playing paint by the numbers. Oh, we're gonna go here. We're gonna go investigate this.
You're talking Long Shot, right?
No, Chronicles of Crime does a better job of this game. Lucky Duck's version of this,
I disagree.
Does it way better than Detective.
But that's not what we're debating.
No, but I'm saying we finished all the scenarios in that. We couldn't get past the second one because we were just done. We were done, and that's a knock on the game.
Sure, that would knock it off a meaningful choice, but not a game immersion.
It would knock
also, the terminal, the computers, everyone taking on their roles, the storyline that was part of it. There's so much more immersion in that. Just because you had 1 sour experience, you're going to discredit all of the things that you learned and the cool storyline and like the fact just because the scenarios kicked your butt, and they did ours too. Like those first 2 scenarios did. Like, you felt like you played it wrong at first. But you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't discredit the whole story and how immersive it felt. The guy who was on our computer, our mutual friend, he felt like it was a 1980s computer terminal. There's even points the historian part of you would really appreciate when you can search online for any stuff.
Well, we're not
Any of
pushing
the
on this,
background.
so we're calling game immersion rush. We're not pushing on it.
All
I'm
right.
not pushing. You're not pushing.
All right,
because
go
you're
ahead.
discrediting.
Which other ones?
You're discrediting how I feel on this one, and
Okay.
I'm discrediting how you're feeling on it. It's a wash. We
All right,
have
art
come
and
to-
production is detective. It is. Better art, better production. It has a website. Works really well. Everything's better about it.
I'll give it the graphic design, and I'll give it the pieces and component. I prefer the art in long shot. I'll give you art and production.
I like the cartoony art on Long Shot.
I prefer the cartoony art over detectives.
Okay, art and production, detective. Meaningful choice, detective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And replay value,
Detective.
detective. Okay, detective moves on. Sir.
Don't sir me. You're the one
Sir.
discrediting me and how I feel about the game.
No, I'm not saying your opinion
no,
isn't valid.
no,
I'm just
no.
saying you're going to it with not full information, and you're
So
knocking it on something
we did
that
the same
you
thing
couldn't
for
have done.
Risk Legacy, so you can't
Correct.
say it on this
No,
one
but
compared
the
to
thing is,
now.
we both have the same number of experience on Risk Legacy, so we can't say
Okay,
either of that is
you
valid.
had the full experiences, but you can't discredit how
Our
I
third
feel
seed,
about
that's
something.
our third seed. Detective. Done. Okay. Last one. Here we go. All right, let me move this along. So detective will almost certainly be going against Cascadia. There we go.
No, it is going against Cascadia.
That's what I said.
You said almost.
Oh my
certainly.
goodness, it's not even a debate, sir.
You said almost certainly.
Seed 4. I'm about to murder. Seed 4, Santorini versus Seed 5, King Domino. Here we go. Last fight
No,
of the
but your
quarterfinals.
warning.
We're past that.
Your
Let
warning
it
was
go.
almost.
Let it go. By the way, if you haven't noticed by now, the code word, the code phrase is "Let it burn" for your chance to win a copy of matches today. All right, 4 versus Santorini versus King Domino. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. You start. Get on with it.
Santorini is what I get. And this is actually a really hard one for me today.
Is it now?
We're burning on the stream today.
Illuminous is just watching.
He's
just
having
the
a
heat.
blast on this. No, so this one's a tough because these are both very good games. Santorini is one of the few 2 players, and you can play with more people. I don't recommend playing it more than 2 people. Is one of the few I still own in this house. When it comes to art and production, Santorini knocks it out of the park with the pieces. They try to give you the feel of Santorini, Greece. So you have these white buildings with the blue caps, tops, and stuff like that. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous game. It's a very simple game because all you're doing on your turn is you're putting something out and you're trying to be the first one up on 3 floors. It has a little bit of expandability because you have the variant in there that gives you the player powers. A lot of smart choices in this game. My big thing with the Santorini is, does it really give you that immersiveness? Because at its core, it's an abstract strategy game. And so my thing is, I love Santorini. I think it's really good. Illumina says new Santorini will change that hopefully, and I agree. I hopefully do hope it makes some good changes on that aspect because it does have that ease of play aspect. It's very simple. My wife, when she saw it, she wanted to play it, and we don't play a lot of 2-player games, and so she got it for me for my birthday. We played it. She likes it, but it's when you're coming up against something like King Domino. I don't really get that immersive in that game compared to something like Santorini. But then again, I don't get that immersive in Santorini either. So, for me, I think Santorini's the better game. I think it should move on, but let's hear what you got to say.
King Domino had a sequel, Queen Domino. It has another variation, King Domino Origins. And it did have an expansion, the Giants expansion. As well as it had a 2-player King Domino Duel. It's also a Spiel winner. With that being said, Santorini moves on.
That was a weird argument.
I mean, I don't have... Here's the thing, right? Santorini is actually easier to play
It's
than
much
King Domino.
easier.
You move, and you can build. That's literally it, right? and then you have some abilities. Sure, but the game is
Neither are really game immersive.
This one you're building a 5x5 square, unless you're 2 player, and 7x7, whatever. But you have to match domino sides, and then you're trying to group domino colors together and read it. So there's already more rules right there. Replay value. Santorini has all those characters. King Domino does not. Meaningful choice. Santorini is an abstract strategy game and pure strategy. You win by outwitting your opponent, unless you're playing with the gods, and then sometimes they're a little more powerful than others, but barely.
Mm-hmm.
And they even make up for that by saying play 2 out of 3, and then swap the gods. Done. Okay. So you have to outwit your opponent. Done.
That is true, Luminous.
Game immersion, there's no theme on either of them that makes sense, except for the pieces and components. That is, I mean, it's a wash. It's Santorini is straight through. So, there you go.
All right, that was the easiest one out of the quarterfinals.
I'm just tired of arguing with you. Can't we all just get along?
Never. That's not how we build this debate.
Yeah, you can't.
There will be blood.
There's few companies that could beat Roxley's quality. That is very right.
All right, so
it's a debate. Yeah, I mean it's debatable whether we're gonna get along or not.
No, Detective Beat
has to be fire.
Long shot.
All right, so now we're gonna talk about what the seeds were for each of these and how we got to this point. Four games were just eliminated. Oh, let me move on. Move on the board. I'm not used to this now. I'm used to just looking at that.
It was his idea too.
Santorini moves on. We have our top 4 seeds staying through.
All right, so New York Zoo was eliminated with only 1% of the vote. Risk Legacy was eliminated with 1% of the vote. Long Shot the Dice Game had 6% of the vote. And King Domino, which was the most recent one that was eliminated, had 2% of the vote. So, those were our eliminations. Moving on to, the
semifinals. Here we go. Concordia versus Santorini.
Once again, I almost put in my coffee cup.
Concordia versus Santorini. Our 1 seed versus our 4 seed. Let's see who begins. Yeah, we're going to need to buy an easel. I'm tired of lifting that. Here we go. You'll be starting us.
I got Concordia. That's the wrong one, but sure, whatever. Anyways, Concordia. Again, there's a reason why it's so high up there. It is a well-beloved game. We talked about it. Do I think it beats Santorini based on our criteria? I don't think it does. Because art and production is much better in Santorini.
Mm-hmm.
Meaningful choice. Both have really good depth, but as you were putting it simple on that aspect, it's straight. The ease of play. Hands down, Santorini's winning.
Right.
The meaningful choice aspect is where I'm kind of torn. The replay value is higher in Concordia, and the game immersion is a little bit higher for me in Concordia. But on art production and ease of play, those two for me go Santorini. It's where I'm getting into the game immersion. Neither one really give you too much of a feel. It is the player interaction. Our meaningful choice is where I'm torn between the two because. Again, there's no arbitrary choices much in the other games. Both of them are very strategic games, but Santorini, I think, just has slightly more strategy aspect of it because you have to outsmart the other player more so than play smartly, in a sense, if you get what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. And then the impact of other player strategies. You do that a handful of times in Santorini. Basically, I got to put a piece over here. I'm going to put a cap over there because you're really close to that 3rd floor. Mm-hmm. So let me put this here. This way you can't get up there. So this is very tough for me. And I want to see actually your thoughts on this one. For me, the way I'm looking at it, it looks like Santorini's going to move on.
Well, I mean, obviously replay value goes to Concordia.
Yes.
Game immersion, I would give to Concordia.
Yeah, I give those two to Concordia as well.
And art and production needs to play to Santorini.
Yeah.
Here's why I think Concordia moves on.
Okay.
And there's one very specific reason, is that you're going to play with the god cards in Santorini pretty much no matter what to get the full experience, right? And that adds, although they have a really cool ability on it, they are not balanced. They did their best as they can to balance it. And they do have that give and take, push and pull. Like, trade it out, then one player chooses whichever, to play the third round if you balance it out. If one is clearly more powerful. But here's why, and there's one specific thing about Concordia that makes it more of a pure strategy than this, is that the amount of random that's in Concordia is only by what cards come up, and that only determines really the pricing on it. A lot of people say this is a deck builder. I disagree with that. This is an action selection because you never shuffle your hand of cards.
No.
When you play the cards, the fact that they all come right back and are immediately, instantly available, therefore, that takes out the arbitrary choice in it. And so the engine you build is immediately at hand, and you know what stages you're already going to go through. If you know you're going to play this card, then this card, then this card, when you reset, you can plan that accordingly. If this was a standard deck builder, that I would have given it Santorini.
Yeah.
But because of how, like, you choose the god cards at random, and because they are so weighted differently, that I feel is arbitrary at that point. Because if you get a really good god that you know how to use, and I get not a very good one, even if I know how to use it, you're probably still going to win. Then why even play at that round? I will try to win when you get on the next one. It's not so much outwitting when it's that big of a difference.
Okay.
That's my thought of why I think Concordia
I never really play it with the god cards. I prefer just the basic game.
Sure.
Because it's much more strategic that way.
Yeah.
Okay. If I've been swayed. You actually swayed me on an argument.
Don't get too comfortable with it. I don't think that's going to happen all that often. As history has foretold.
Do I need to bring out the lightsaber again?
Do I need to bring out the board?
I think my lightsaber would do more damage.
Do I need to bring out the board? I'm bringing out the board.
Yeah,
Because
you have fun with
Concordia
that.
moves on. I'm going to put Santorini back over here. Alright, here we go. So Concordia is right here. There we go. That's facing against either Cascadia or Detective.
And here comes the bloodletting.
I know what your arguments are going to be. Here we go. The bloodletting. Wow. Alright. All races are broken and that... All the races are broken. That
Unbalance is a form of balance.
Yeah. So, if they were all equally broken, like all super beneficial, then yes. But some like abilities are just objective. Like the one that can jump up multiple levels versus dropping down multiple levels is not. Those aren't a comparison, right? What like dropping down a lot of levels is not as good as jumping up multiple levels. That's my opinion. But with the new Santorini coming out, you're right. It might be different.
But we're not debating the new Santorini. We're debating the old one.
The old one, the original one, brought to you by Spin Masters.
Yeah.
The cheap Walmart version. Anyway, all right. Now we're gonna go. What other games again? Cascadia and Detective.
You got Detective.
There we go. I got Detective.
Yep.
All right.
Because that was heads, and that was the first one I pulled out.
Let me put Santorini
Don't
here.
need this anymore.
Oh no. Let's put Cascadia here. Because I need to remember what I'm arguing.
You're arguing Detective.
Concordia. Okay. Concordia. Alright. Now I'm on there. I'm going to ask you a question. And just hear me out on this analogy. Did you watch the Avatar movie? Like the one by James Cameron?
Which one?
The first one?
Yeah, I watched the first one.
Would you say it was good or bad?
I would say it was boring. I wouldn't say it was bad, but it wasn't entertaining because I already saw that movie.
Right. Do you think that the people who think that they like it have a valid point for liking it, right?
Yeah, that's
people
fine.
like it. They like it, right? So both times I've attempted to watch it, I've fallen asleep. Once in the movie theater.
You want to watch?
No, hold on. Hear me out on this.
I was just going to tell you. You want to watch the same movie but better? Watch Dances with Wolves.
I'll remember that next time. Okay, so, I have attempted to watch Avatar twice. We have fallen asleep both times. The first time in the movie theater. Second time we're like, you know what? That's unfair for the movie. We gotta try this again. And fell asleep 30 minutes in. I think that movie is trash now. Do I have a valid argument?
Sure. You do. If it doesn't entertain you, you do have a valid argument.
So I can say it's objectively bad.
Yes, because it's honestly, again, as I said before, when it comes to Avatar, he does nothing new in that movie. It's a ripoff of 2 other movies.
Okay.
Legitimately. You know what he did new that was really cool about that movie? If you saw it in theaters in the 3D, what he did with the 3D, it didn't pop out at you, it went in.
Okay.
That was the only thing I liked about it. The rest of the movie was boring.
I agree with you on that. One other comparison. One more that's similar, okay? Let's say I watch Star Wars Episode 1. And I'm like, I hate Jar Jar Binks, I'm out. Rest of Star Wars is trash, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a valid argument?
Yeah. Because it's your personal opinion.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Just so we're on agreement that that's how these arguments are being laid out. Would you say that I could feasibly rate all of the other movies because I saw that one and I hated it?
Here's
I know you know the comparison I'm making.
Here is the counter argument to that. You're stopping at one movie.
Yes.
I didn't stop at one scenario. I played two scenarios, hoping that it would get better, and it did not get better. Now, if you're making the comparison, saying you saw the first movie and the second movie,
the first trilogy, and therefore I think that the original trilogy is awful.
Yeah, if you don't like the first trilogy, you may not like the third trilogy, and you got to think these films were built for younger audiences at that time.
Our theater was not IMAX, unfortunately. So you're saying if I watch the first trilogy, I'm like, man, that was really bad? I have a valid argument to say that the original movies were bad too?
It's your opinion, sure.
And you wouldn't disagree with me?
I disagree with you, but that's my opinion. That's my aspect.
Okay.
You're taking my valid reasoning out of it. I'm not.
Are you saying I have valid reasoning that
Yes, that's
that
why
the original series would be trash because the first series was bad?
Wait, hold on. The original and the first series. Wait, what?
Yeah, no. Okay, episodes 1, 2, and 3 because I dislike that. I can say because of those 3, the rest of them are obviously bad as well.
I'm not going to force you to agree with my opinion.
But you're saying that I could adequately review the other 3 having not seen them.
I don't care what you think, honestly.
So you're saying, yes, I can review the next 3 because even though I haven't seen them, I can give them a legitimate criticism.
If the first 2 don't catch you, why am I going to force you to keep banging your head against the wall?
Right. So you're saying that I can validly say that I have the right to review the following trilogy, and I know you're just not saying it because you don't want to admit that I'm correct on this, right?
No.
Because you're saying that I can say that the next trilogy is bad.
Here is the problem I have with your analogy, because it's a false fallacy here.
Yes.
Because what you're saying is the first, 2 hours of the first movie. Because the thing is, all of this
saying the first 3.
No. Hear me out. All of Detective, all 5 scenarios come out of the base box. If you don't like the first 2 hours of the movie, you're saying the rest of the stuff is bad. I'm saying I went through 2 hours of a 5-hour movie, and I hated the first 2 hours. I'm not going to watch the rest of the 3 hours.
Right.
I'm not saying the other expansions are any better or worse, because that's what they are. They're expansions. I don't know how Dig Deeper is. I don't know how that LA one is. I'm not arguing those points. I'm talking about the first movie of the, let's say, trilogy here. And it is a 3-hour movie, and I watch an hour and a half, and I walk out of the movie theater. I'm not going to review the other stuff because I dislike the hour and a half.
Okay.
So I'm going to review that movie, and I'm going to review it poorly based on what I saw. I'm not going to judge the rest of the series on it because I'm not going to touch the rest of the series on it.
Okay. So you're saying that you can review the whole movie based on the first portion of it?
Yes. The whole point of a movie is escapism. The whole point of a board game is escapism.
Okay.
If I'm not having a good time, why am I going to bang my head against the wall? That's my argument.
I agree with you.
But you're not letting me...
I'm just saying you can't say that it's not... That you can't say that it's not interactive having not had the full experience.
I can say it too, because the first part of the interaction was not enjoyable. Why am I going to watch the rest of the movie even if it's more interactive?
Because I'm just saying it was definitely interactive from somebody who's experienced it.
For someone who's experienced it.
Yeah.
I'm not discrediting the fact that you've seen the whole movie.
Right.
You're discrediting my feelings towards it because it was so bad in the hour and a half. No, I'm not taking away your argument. You're taking away mine.
Right. You're saying it's not interactive because of you had a bad experience.
Yeah. For my personal, yes, that's what I'm saying. That's why I will not give it game immersion. That's when we come to the fact that we can't come to an agreement. We call it a wash. You
Agreed.
don't want to argue that point. That's the or you
enough.
want to argue that point.
It's another pineapple on pizza art. Actually, that's a good comparison. Really good. All right. So art and production is detective. Let's see here. Ease of play, Cascadia. Replay value is detective. And meaningful choice is probably Cascadia. Agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah? 2 and 2?
Yeah.
All right. Cast to the vote.
But that's what I'm saying. You get when I'm.
No,
coming...
I just wanted to make sure that this was clear. That's why we're throwing it to the vote.
Yeah, no. But I'm also saying.
Because it's not worth arguing now.
But that's the thing. We're not going to budge on that. You're the one that keeps trying to change my mind.
I'm not trying to change it.
I keep telling you.
I wanted it to be clear why we're not debating that part.
Okay.
We agreed on the other two. Cast it to the vote. Cascadia moves on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
I know it. I know it moves on. Oh, I knew it moved on. I'm just saying.
Wow. And so, from what I'm seeing over here, there is 111 votes on this.
Mm-hmm.
And the people agree with me. Wow.
I don't disagree with the votes. I'm just saying I would still give detective game immersion, hands down.
So, for everybody that is listening to the podcast, we're talking about the poll here. We had 111 votes. Mm-hmm. Not a single vote went to detective.
Yeah, that's fair. Actually, I'm curious. Do you still think Cascadia is more immersive than detective? I mean, really, do you think it's actually more immersive? It's not. Cascadia doesn't feel anything like what you're doing.
See, for me, both the way we have the criteria,
Right.
Cascadia is a much funner game to lose.
Right.
In memorable moments, there have been more memorable.
Agreed,
Again, my memorable moments when it comes to detective
was negative.
Is
right.
Turning that away.
Right.
We played 2 scenarios.
Right.
And we were done with it.
But the player interaction, you still feel more like a detective in Detective than you do building a biosphere.
Yeah, I give that aspect of it. But also the player interaction in Cascadia, depending on the group you're playing with, can lead to some fun table talk.
Not thematic table talk.
It doesn't necessarily have to...
No, that's what's there.
Table talk / role-playing. In example... We're not talking about the table talk to the game mechanism. You're coming at it a different point of view than I am.
I just don't see how Detective can't be more immersive than Cascadia. Again, I really don't. But again, that's why we're throwing it to the vote. Cascadia moves on.
You're the one that keeps arguing here.
No, that's fine. You think Cascadia is more thematic than Detective. Got it. That's on the record. Strike it down now.
2 out of 3.
You heard it here, people. Yes.
I will even call player interaction a wash to both of them. But is the game fun to lose? Cascadia is much more fun to lose. Because you don't feel like burning the box.
Sure.
And there is much more memorable moments on the games that I have played of Cascadia than there is in Detective. Because
I agree with them. I don't agree with the memorable moments, but I don't disagree with you. You know what I mean?
You've been saying it the whole time.
I'm saying the player interaction is the more thematic one.
Yeah, I'll give you that, but even then, our player interaction was misery.
No, ours was very thematic. Yeah.
Ours was misery because we were like, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah.
We're playing how the rule states something is in. And that's not really good player interaction. So it is a knock for me when it comes to detective.
Makes me wonder if actual detectives are like frustrated with not having all the information.
I know quite a few detectives. They can get frustrated real easily.
Sounds awfully thematic, doesn't it? Anyway, fine. Let's move on. The Battle of the Seas. We have Concordia versus Cascadia. Here we go. Let's put detective back over here. All right. Our final two. Our 1 seed versus our 2 seed. Concordia versus Cascadia.
As I was mentioning earlier, Detective had 0% of the vote, meaning not a single person voted for this game.
It in now.
Santorini had 5% of the vote.
Oh, landslide. All right.
I mean, based on this poll, the top 2 games moved on.
Yes, I agree. And they're the highest seeded for a reason. Now, this final round, We do not take sides, thank goodness. And we just simply debate each of the 5 points. This is getting ridiculous at this point.
You're getting ridiculous at this
Sir,
point.
take your bias out of this.
Okay,
How dare you?
I already have one bias on this. Ease of play for me, Cascadia.
Yes. Oh, I agree. 1 point for Cascadia. Game immersion, definitely detective.
Yeah.
No, Cascadia, clearly, because that's more thematic. If it's more thematic than detective, there's no way it's beating Concordia.
In my opinion, at that time, it was better. I don't know if it's better on this one. I'm not touching game immersion right now. Replay value. Which one do you
Concordia.
feel? Yes.
Concordia has a number of map packs, a number of different add-on cards, all that
They
stuff.
have a whole solo expansion called
Yeah.
Salsa.
Yeah, they have a whole expansion just for solo stuff.
Let's see. Meaningful choice. No, let's not touch that one right now. Let's go to art and production. Which one?
Let's not touch that one right now.
So we're gonna have to start touching one of them. So, all right. So let's
art
break
and production. No, that's Cascadia.
Yeah, I was gonna say the art is better. Pieces and components are, I think, is Concordia.
They're fine in Concordia.
But I think the graphic design in
Cascadia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And best mobile art. Again, we've said it before.
Yeah, and that's why I say art for sure, hands down.
Yeah.
But the other two criteria, I think graphic design for Cascadia is just much more easily readable.
Okay. Meaningful choice. That is 100% Concordia. Because, again, there is no arbitrary. Only how the single deck of cards, which are separated in ages anyway, you know generally what they're coming out. They're just slightly different. And there's enough of them out there that you can plan. It really just modifies the cost versus whatever random combinations of tiles come out in Cascadia.
Honestly, I don't disagree with you. I want to give Cascadia its shine because you can impact other players' strategy, especially if you use your, the acorn or the leaf or whatnot. Mm-hmm. Whereas you could take the land tile, but you can choose which one of the animal tiles you want to take. Mm-hmm. That can mess with people. I like everything that Cascadia does, but I agree with you. Concordia just has a lot more depth of strategy.
It does. Absolutely. So now we're on to game immersion.
All right. Which game is more fun to lose?
Neither. They're both equally fun to lose.
Yeah, they really are. I was just trying to think, which one is more fun to lose?
You feel clever either way.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the same thing. Is no matter what you're doing in either one of those games, you feel smart the way you did something, even if you lost.
Yep.
Which one has more player interaction?
Neither. They're both multiplayer solitaire.
I think there's just slightly a little bit more in Concordia, just because of the fact that you can block people when they're going down those roads.
Yeah, same with taking a tile away from Cascadia. I think those are equal, but really you're playing here versus you're playing on your.
So you want to call that one a wash?
Agreed. Yep.
All right.
Yep. Memorable moments? Neither.
Neither.
They're both completely forgettable in every way possible.
When it comes to the memorable moments, I don't remember.
There's no stand-up moments in either of those.
The only reason I know who won our last game of Cascadia, not our group, my other group, is just because I couldn't believe that they made that. They were able to score all their hawks basically because it was that 3 range that they had to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was amazing. That was cool.
Yeah.
But even then, it's just kind of like, my hawk scored twice. So.
Here's how not memorable either of those games are, and I say this not as a knock per se, but this is just there's nothing that's specifically like those stand up at the table moments. Even if you told me who won Cascadia in 20 minutes from now, I would not remember who won the last game of Cascadia.
I could say the same thing about Concordia.
Same with Concordia. It's just they're immersive on your end because you're playing that multiplayer solitaire, but neither of them have anything that brings to the table.
For me with this is because we talk about this all the time. We talked about with the game Small World when we actually mentioned it about with Gamehead Geek, and he gets embarrassed every time we bring this up. Where it was that stand-up moment where he shouted across a room in a board game store, had everybody turn their heads towards him.
Yep.
That's when we talk about memorable moments. I don't feel it in either one of these games.
No, I really don't. They're both great. They're both very, very pleasant games. They're wonderful experiences as you play them, but none of them go, aha! I am clever, or aha, look at what just happened. I'm going to be telling this to my family years down there. I don't remember a single time I played any of these games other than the fact that I've enjoyed it every time.
All right, I just refreshed the page. We are considering this as a watch because
Yep.
it's 2-2. So let's see
Two and a
who
half,
is
two and a half.
ascending here.
All right, here we go.
Based on the fan votes, and this is why it's very important to get into the poll. You know what? Let's add a little touch here. I'm going to put a poll in our actual chat and let Illuminous...
Vote as well?
yeah.
All right, Luminous, go ahead and vote between these two. We'll give you a few moments, and anybody else who happens to be in our chat, feel free to vote as well. We will take that into consideration when we help determine. Please don't feel bad if you vote against something and it happens to move on. We'll see. We don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. We want to know your opinion. If you haven't played one of these games, make it up. We have been too.
Yeah.
Remember, Cascadia, definitely the more thematic of the two.
Where's that freaking lightsaber? Let me grab it.
I'm just going to hold this board up awkwardly.
All right.
Bum-ba-rum-ba-ba-bum.
Oh, we got a vote. We have it. All right. Well, with that being said, I think it's in concurrence here. Concordia is the ascending game.
There we go. Concordia, people. There it is. There's the winner of the Season 4 Everyday Board Games Podcast
Honestly,
Champion Top 8 Debate.
I don't hate that choice. Concordia is a really good game.
It really is. And I'm so glad after all these years I finally got you to play it because now you see the beauty that is Concordia.
And so,
It's such a great game.
and here's the thing. This is the first year Concordia has gotten into the top 8 debates and is now ascended. So it can no longer be debated joining Return to Dark Tower. Mind you, Concordia is a much older game. Return to Dark Tower got into the first year right then and there.
Yep.
But
And Gloomhaven.
Gloomhaven.
And Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Yeah, so
Wow.
congratulations to our 4th champion of champions,
Yeah.
Concordia. With that being said, I want to remind everybody we are running a giveaway for a copy of Matches. Oh, wait. Two copies of Matches. So,
Wait, no, now one. I'm going to use the other one to burn down this guy's house right now.
so you could join us again by following us on Twitch.
Does each of those give you a ticket?
Each following us on Twitch gives us a ticket. Subscribing to us on Twitch gives you 3 extra tickets, so that's now 4. Subscribing to us on YouTube gives you a ticket, so you could get up to 5 right there.
Yep.
Following us on Instagram can give you 6th ticket, and the big one here, emailing us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. In the subject line, put contest. In the body, put the code phrase, let it burn.
Detective is not thematic. Sorry. Let it burn. Oh, sorry, I got those two mixed up, apparently. So we hope you've enjoyed listening to this ridiculous episode that we've just
You're the one that made it
this
ridiculous.
ridiculous episode. Thank you all for tuning in. If you ever want to join us on a live chat, like our friend Illuminous, and watch us as we just very loudly hate each other, you can join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames and join in on the conversation there.
As well as all video re-uploads are found on YouTube under youtube.com/@everydayboardgames. If you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on the platform. Subscribe if you're not. Like the video and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject.
And if you want to email us, remember, there's that contest. Email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. And also, we have an Instagram. Go follow us there for an extra ticket. That's instagram.com/everydayboardgames.
All audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, Podbean, and Apple.
And I want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.